All right, good evening. Today we're back doing some more exploration with the Notebook LM that Google had published. If you want to start your own, you just go here at this link. Simply go here and hit create, and then it'll make a new one. So this is from scratch. I'm going to pull in some research papers today and see how it does with summarizing those and asking it information from those. I had downloaded a few articles, so I just want to see if I can upload these. So there's a few here that I will upload. One is the landmark paper that kind of became one of the foundational pieces of machine learning. That's the attention is all you need. There is a few here about retrieval augmented generation. That's known as RAG. That's how you would update an LLM for a specific industry or area that you would want to learn from. One of these is also a paper that won an award from the recent ICLR conference this year. It's the auto encoding variational bayes. We got the test of time award, so it's the award from all the scientists there that think will have one of the most long-lasting impacts. And then I just downloaded one of the top papers from this week, which was how much can RAG actually help the reasoning of a LLM. If you'd like, you can go here to Archive. This is a great site for research papers that are submitted. It's completely open source. They're all posted here. If you have a specific topic that you're interested in, simply type it in the search box. The only thing that I would say, pull it up here. Here's where you come to by default. There's a wide variety here, but if you have a specific area, the only thing I would say is actually to use the search, and instead, when you click in here, to use the dates to give it, because it likes to give you the most recent, but there's a few things, a few small changes that you can make. Specify the area that you would want it to have been submitted in. If you know the papers from a certain time frame, use the date range for that, whether it's a year or range. For example, when I was trying to search up the attention is all you need paper, there are a couple recent versions of it. Well, let's type it in here. I'll show you what I mean. So this is going by submission date oldest, but by default, it would go here by announcement date. And you can see that there are a lot of recent papers that are kind of trying to, I guess, coast off the popularity of attention is all you need and be a more specified version. This one's talking about video. This one's talking about attention is all you need in relation to large language models. So you can do relevance, would probably be the best way. Or you could come here and just refine query, which will take you back to here, and then specify the range if you know where the paper is from. Otherwise, it's a great resource for kind of poking around. There's a lot of subdomains in the fields here. If you're looking for machine learning, it's actually here under statistics. You won't find it in the computer science group, but a lot of my work is focused around machine learning and large language models. So I typically will come here at least once a week just to see what's been published, and we're going to see how well Notebook LM will summarize some of the papers and see how reliable it is. So just from importing those, we had seen it yesterday when we were doing this. preloads all of these buttons that will run, these top ones will run on all the sources, regardless of what you select. The summary seems like to be, let's see. Last time it was the first one that I had imported, but okay, so it's the attention is all you need. Version out, and look, there's the auto encoding one. So it does look like it tries to group them together. Oh yeah, and it mentions here like third one, the fourth one, so great. So taking all that into account, let's go and let's just look at some of the suggestions here. So how does RAG affect the reasoning capabilities of LLMs? This is going off of all 4 papers. While that's generating, we're going to try the audio overview. Hopefully we have more success with it than we did yesterday. Again, we'd love to see more options here. Just to kind of give more power to the users. Where did the chat go? There it is. Okay. So it looks like it's gone through and summarizing the papers. I like that it has a lot of these here where it will show you exactly where from the paper that it had gotten its sources. Although it does seem like here it pulled these multiple times, but this citation isn't directly related to sorry, the reasoning here. I guess it's trying to show that it is capable of doing. No, that doesn't make sense. It's just a. Yeah, so I don't know why it's referencing these, and this is maybe a table or something from the graph that it's pulling through. So there still could be more improvement here. I'm wondering too if it's the nature of the documents here. Let me see. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be a wiki page for attention is all you need. I'm going to ask it to pull in a website. There we go. And so I'm going to ask it kind of 2 questions side by side. One is using the original PDF, and then we're going to ask the same question to when it's only pulling from the Wikipedia page. And we're going to keep it high level at first. So like, what are the key points of this paper? And one source, the only source is that attention is all you need, and we'll see how it does with its prompt. And you can see as soon as it generates it, it also changes the options down here for like next questions to go to. Sorry. So the key takeaways sequence. This is known as seek to seek. These sequence to sequence models introduces what a transformer is. Now they're pretty commonplace. Positional encoding. So the importance of words in a sequence instead of just treating them all individually. Improvements in translation. Yeah, all great. So now I'm simply going to ask it the same question, but we're going to go off of the Wikipedia page and see if we get the same thing or if it's going to be considerably different. So we see here there's that 7 or 8 bullet points from the things. This is tiny bit less, but this is also going to have more context, right? This is because it's the Wikipedia. It's also talking about the importance of the paper. Attention mechanisms, seek to seek. Yeah, talking about the number of occurrences, now going to an attention model. Yeah, so it got the same highlights from it. This from the PDF does a great job at showing like the specific ways, or more specific ways that it was impactful. Whereas this is talking kind of more at a high level. Too, I know from the page here, one of the first things it mentions is the group of scientists and talking about kind of their diversity. And that's kind of highlighted here. Yeah, talking about seek to seek. Attention, great. And that's a pretty good summary considering the Wikipedia page for it is not all that long. I'll pull it over here so you can see it. It does quickly talk about the highlights of the video, highlights of the paper, the authors, which is why you see it highlighted here by the research assistant, as that's something of importance because it's a whole section here. And gives it a little more context, which is what I was saying as well. You can kind of see from it where it does talk about the importance, significance, right? Or when we talked about the original one, it was more focused on the improvements that were being suggested. So both are good summarizations. The difference is actually the context which we provided, and we see the difference here, and that's great that it can pick those up. So now I'm going to highlight the two RAG, and I'm just going to ask what is the best way to implement in specific domains. I'm doing that because I think it's a good crossover between the two papers. I haven't actually read through them. See, but it'll be interesting what the summarization of those will be. Interesting. So this was a lengthy response this time. So let's see. They don't give specific. It's important to have a good data set. We always know that in machine learning. A good data set makes the rest of the process much easier. A lot of time you can collect a lot of data. You have to work through the messiness of it to help refine it, so that way you can learn better. It gives example here. Make sure you have domain-specific corpus of documents that you're going to update it. That makes sense because you want to take LLMs are very broad in their function. By incorporating RAG, you're hoping to make it very specific to an area. And so the more narrow you can make your knowledge base, the better serving it will be in helping that. The next concept it talks about is using knowledge graph for how you're storing your information. So instead of it all being here, these individual files going through them one by one, create a knowledge graph, which kind of finds the best ways for these data to overlap, and then put them in based on, or incorporate those into your knowledge base based on that. Yeah, and here it is again, highlighting that. So you want to make sure if there's like specific keywords for your domain that the model recognizes that, and by doing this knowledge graph, it helps them to, or helps the model to realize that sooner and create more of those. Vector stores. We use this, or I should say we use this. I use this in my day-to-day work as well. It's good for handling unstructured data while still preserving relationships between them. So it's exactly what it calls out here. The authors are using text embedding 8802. I know this model is now over a year old. There's been updates to it. I believe they're on 8.3, but there's even more newer versions of that. I think it's called BLG. It's available in Hugging Face, but it's a great general text embedding. And then you can train it to be very specific in your domain for when you're implementing it right. Then it talks about the general pipeline, right? Like, because you want to, instead of the model trying to generate all those pieces along the way, you're hoping to teach it to go out and find the right piece of data and pull that information back. To do that, you need the retrieval, and then using that retrieval for that document to generate the answer from that. So making sure your query is understood by the model, retrieving the right document for the model to interpret in terms of its answer, and then the process to actually generate that answer. Yeah, so limited reasoning depth. This is just a general challenge with LLMs. They're not actually going through reasoning in their implementations. What they're doing is they're trying to almost guess the next word based on associations that it learned from your data sets. So there is experimentation to try and teach LLMs how to implement a chain of thought structure, but for general purposes, the LLMs do not do that. They will just try and give you as close of an answer as it has based on the documents that it has seen and the question that you provided to it. So it's not actually thinking in terms of thinking like a person thinks. It's trying to find those associations and bring those to the surface for you. But all in all, these are nice summaries. Let's see. Yeah, so this is a much better citations for this one, at least in these few examples. Here we go. Yeah, it doesn't, when it's showing some of the equations from the PDFs, it doesn't do a great job at rendering those, but that I think is just part of the challenge with Markdown. And I'm not sure how it's actually using the PDFs, if it's doing text scans or if it's actually doing computer vision to see those equations, because that would be something that, while it's interesting, I don't know that it's relevant to the summary here. Let's go back and let's see. I pulled together the 15-minute podcast. I'm going to try and put this on 1.5 speed while we listen to it. Yesterday when we were doing it, um, there were a lot of little things that weren't great about it. There was what I'll call echoing. So the first voice says a sentence, the second voice will like echo the last parts of that sentence, and sometimes just the first person will start speaking again. So it was like a like a parrot almost in terms of the echo. And then there were times where as soon as the first voice would start to fade, the second voice would kind of jump in over it. So it didn't. It felt like more like reading of a script rather than a conversation. So I'm hoping this time we'll get a little bit better results. I'm not hearing anything. Hold on, let me try this. All right, okay, there we go. Let's go. That was a good summary of uh, what it meant by using attention versus the old kind of word by word comprehension. So it was interesting when you heard that exactly. Didn't it sound like a third voice type? Let's go back a little bit and see. So you heard that, right? Like the third voice that kind of came in. So that's just a small, I almost want to call it a glitch in the what it's generating here, but let's keep listening. Because it's only supposed to have two voices. So, that was a great summary of it. This is way better than what we were getting yesterday. Comparing it to summarizing a YouTube video, it's doing a great job of explaining a very abstract concept with a good example here. One of the things when we did yesterday, it wasn't giving many examples, but here it gave a really good example of showing how this came together, or how to help make this come together in your thoughts. So that was awesome. Mhm. Okay, so I think it's great that it was able to generate a follow-up question, like, well, what did it just asked? Because it seemed like, yeah, from everything it was building up to, it sounds like, oh yeah, now all of a sudden LLMs are capable of reasoning. And we know that's not the case, but it will get better over time. But this is talking about how they can actually do that. And I'm curious to see how it summarizes this next part. Okay, so yeah, today's version was much better than what we got yesterday. So I'm going to give that a thumbs up. Um, Overall, pulling together gave great examples, highlighting it, right, taking the complexity of understanding these research and giving easily digestible examples, and then the interaction between the two voices today was much better as well, between less talking over one another and less of the echo as well. So that was much better today than compared to yesterday. We'd even given it multiple chances yesterday and kind of ended up at the same place. So overall, that was great to see. Would love it if we could do, because it mentioned it was talking about 2 papers, but when we had generated it, we had 4 selected. So it would be great if we could, maybe select 2 or 1 and tell it to generate these and generate multiple of them at the same time. Right, it's much easier to listen to this summarization of a paper rather than having to actually kind of sit and read these. So you can, if you're driving somewhere, you can listen to the summarization, because like I said, today's version was much better. Good examples too of the implementation of RAG and what attention means and why it was different than others. The examples here were all much better than previous iterations. So that was pretty neat to see. I'm curious to see here. Let's generate some of these like we had done previously. I know they incorporate all the sources, so no, interesting that this failed. This was which one was this? I think it was supposed to be the timeline. All right, so let's delete that one. The study guide, table contents. Okay, so it just talks about the sections of each of those papers. That's fine. Okay. So all in all, I think this is a really good tool for coming in and trying to understand and learning concepts. You may you need to be careful with the sources that you give it. Obviously, like make sure they're well validated. But what it had done here with summarizing these, I think was pretty great. For each of them that we've gone through here, right? It gave multiple sections, and then it gave multiple points within those sections. So kind of talking through each of those pieces was nice. And great simple summaries of what are very complex papers. And talks about what are the differences between this new attention mechanism versus what had been being done at the time. All right, that's great, because I know some of these papers. Actually, let me just pull a couple of these up and see. Talk about this one's 8 pages, 14, 25, and then what was the last one? 11. So it's about 60 pages here, and you already get a good amount of assistance. Where is that? There's. in summarizing those pretty quickly as well. You can imagine if you're reading through each of these, even at 30 seconds a page, about half an hour to read through all these individually, and that's not really taking time to soak it in. It's just trying to complete the task of reading them. Whereas this, where this is already pulled out all the key points there, giving you, I would say, fairly reliable citations for where it's generating those, and then summarizing these nicely. So as far as using this like a research assistant, or if you were using this even to help you research a topic, if you have a bunch of PDFs and resources, for example, my son had to do a report on an animal for school, and if we could pull in a few web pages here, it'd be interesting to see how well those get summarized. To pull those together, right? But I think if you're looking for this for a research assistant, or just helping you to understand a topic better, as long as you're able to find the sources, it's really quick on pulling together those summaries and pulling those in. I know I spent, before I came on here, about 10 to 15 minutes just trying to find some of these papers, where I think you'll be spending more time trying to find your sources and making sure they're good sources. And then after that, it's just a moment or two and you've got that summary already. So all in all, this was a great little experiment to check this out as a research assistant. If you hadn't seen it yesterday, I went through using it to summarize YouTube videos, which was good at summarizing individual videos. The challenges were with the little podcast generator. You couldn't select the sources, so I had 10 different YouTube videos covering a variety of topics. So it focused on basically one or two of the videos and only really talked about those instead of talking about all of them. And then the summarization of those videos, though, was lightning quick. For the project that we'd done before this, where we built our own summarizer, it took 20 to 30 hours to build those. And every time we put in a video, 20-minute video, it would take about 10 minutes to get a 1-paragraph summary. Whereas it was almost as soon as I loaded the video in there, they had already generated the summary of the video. So that was great to see in terms of like time saved. So I'm going to call it a short one here today. Get some water, clear out my throat. But for those of you that are here, thanks for coming. And honestly, make sure to check out the NotebookLM. I'll link it once again. I think overall it's a great tool. It's very much new. I mean, they even tell you it's experimental, but it's got a great interface for putting in sources, selecting them. The only thing I hope that they improve are the buttons here to make them so that these actually interact with the sources. Because right now it will do this just on every source that you have in there. Same thing for when it generates the audio. So if you only got one or two, it's great for those. If you're using these to hold a number of different sources, that's where it gets a little more challenging. But the chat is great. And then once you put in a query, the nice thing too is it kind of generates some of these other questions that are also based on here. So like, the last paper here talking about the Smart Select framework and an explanation on how that actually works. So I think these are all really neat tools. And I really like it for the research side of things. I'm hoping they can make a couple of improvements and here over the next coming weeks to see it. So we'll probably check back in on this, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 weeks, if I see that there's been some significant changes. Overall, it's I think a useful tool for now, and it can definitely be improved, but it's usable in the current stage, especially for the research use case of trying to find information and summarize it very quickly. It does very well at that. Same thing for, we had given it YouTube videos to summarize those. Imagine if you have a long video about a specific topic that you're interested in, it should work pretty well. So that's all for tonight. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you guys on Monday.